Okay, great. So, Akash, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Let's start with a round of applause. Thank you, Akash. I have known Akash since last 1.5 years, and I was always looking, in fact, forward to to be hosting him because he has been one of my source of wisdom all the time. Like I've been asking him questions all the time, one-on-one and stuff. And I was looking forward to this event to have a stage where Akash's wisdom could be here for all of us to share. So, Akash, why not we start with a brief about yourself and your career, how it has spanned, and maybe start in a chronological order if you like. How did it all started?
From latest to past?
Either way.
Alright.
Top, bottom, or bottom to top.
Yeah, I think I'll start with my past. Those are my roots. So I'm an engineer by background, but moved out to business roles in later. So started in 2000. I moved to Pune in 96. Did my engineering and then did a lot of internships in Pune. Started working in a startup because I was placed in Motorola actually in Gurgaon for a VLSI project because I was an electronics and communication engineer by background. And unfortunately, 2001 was really bad for all the engineers coming out of India, and we were one of them. Maybe that was blessing in disguise. I could stay back in Pune and started working in a software company in Pune. And I kind of always thank God that I didn't go into hardware and my career actually started with software. And as you know, if you follow Aegis and so on, he's the one who coined out that term and say, software is eating the world. And that's exactly what is happening right now. So I started my career as an engineer, and obviously was very aspiring right from day one. And within few projects, people even started asking me to do sales, people started asking me to deliver the entire project on my own, people started asking me to go to Korea and the US and close the projects, and there were some issues happening, they wanted me to go and solve the issue. And I was doing this literally at the, from a career perspective, at the age of 2 years, right? And my CEO was, what the heck, right, this guy, and how this guy is doing all of this stuff. But eventually, so that startup got sold to NVIDIA. That's how NVIDIA Pune office started, if you guys know. And we were the early ones who helped NVIDIA set up the whole office. And it's now going to 500 plus people now. And in NVIDIA, I was handling their engineering groups as well as business groups later. And did a lot of work over there. Moved out for an Indian listed company called Innovator. And then started building a lot of global products for them and healthcare domain, pharmaceutical domain, but all software enabled, but there was also a hardware enabled piece to it. And I was literally building a healthcare enabled smartphone in 2008. Can you imagine? iPhone just came in 2007, right, roughly. And again, that was quite ahead of its time what we were trying to do. Moved out of Billcare, was in Nokia, handling some of their production businesses again. Moved out of Nokia, handling again products over there. Then eventually thought, it's been a long time and I need to do something. Smartphones were coming up. The mobile internet overall was growing up in 2010. So decided to jump into starting my own company. That's how my own company Hoopz got started. It was an artificial intelligence platform which we built up in 2011, again crazy, ahead of its time. But we kind of made a product which was accepted by customers, by partners, and then eventually we sold it out because we were almost trying to compete with Google because it's really possible for us. Doing from India, obviously. And after that, Persistent acquired my company, and within Persistent, I was heading other businesses as well. And when I moved up Persistent, when my lock-in got over as a founder, I was lock-in. I was the CEO of a US-based company for some time, and then I moved back to India and sit on board a lot of companies now. And on to my next venture, next year, hopefully. So that's roughly my background, and obviously during this journey, I got a lot of awards. Was nominated as top technology pioneer by World Economic Forum, as co-authored some of international publications, my stories have been featured in some books, and I'm very active helping startups, generally speaking, across the globe. That's me.
That's the envious journey.
Yeah.
Very good. So maybe Akash, would you like to go into more details of Hoopz and how did you build the product?
Yeah, I think
and maybe touching upon also on the growth phase, like people here were asking questions around how do you start and then maybe look at the growth phase of it or taking it to the next level.
Correct. I think it's an interesting journey. In fact, we are the ones in that 2009 to 2011 phase of India wherein entrepreneurship was just building from a large scale standpoint. Right? So if you remember Flipkart, Snapdeal, and those companies, all the internet companies, all the consumer companies, including Practice, started roughly around that same time, right? 2008, 2011. And then obviously 2012, 13 was the growth for a lot of those companies. We came in more from an IP perspective as opposed to market perspective. There's always two scenarios for startups. That you build an IP with not knowing the market size. Or the second one is you know the market size and you can build something around it. Right? We, fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know, but we coming in more from a very deep tech background, we took up the first one. And sometimes it does not work out for a lot of entrepreneurs, sometimes it does work out, especially from countries like India, and at one point of time. So, and it just happened that I was sitting on a couch at my home, and I was reading a few things, and I wanted to kind of find out more details about that article I was reading, and constantly go on internet, search on it, and so on. I thought it's too much of manual activity involved for me to figure out things around what I'm doing right now. And then that's how we end up using Google always, right? And it just came out that hey, smartphones can make them more and more intelligent. That smartphones can have that power to be more intelligent, as opposed to not doing anything unless you want to do it. So as long as the phone is lying on the brick, lying on the table, it's as good as a piece of brick, right? It does not do anything except giving you all the notifications for coming up. And that might change. We're slightly ahead, but you will see that coming up more and more in the next 4 to 5 years. But we thought, can we make smartphones more human? Which means is, obviously, artificial intelligence was not so popular in 2011. So, I would say, at the bottom of where it is today, right? And so we started thinking, can we really do something? Is there a scope of really even doing that kind of an IP to make smartphones more and more intelligent? So that's how Hoopz journey started. I think we thought it's a very large market at the same point of time, though it was not defined. A personal recommendation based on artificial intelligence, based on all your contacts on a smartphone, that market was not roughly defined. Right? So we started thinking more, and we thought that as that market evolves, both smartphones as well as consumer internet as well as data penetration, this might have a bigger opportunity. But was there a $100 billion market defined? Not really. Right? So we're just trying to create that market in a way. And sometimes creating a market is also a challenging affair. But we dig more into that because I came in from an OEM background. We started taking some feedbacks as well and see whether there's an opportunity for them to work with us. And that was slightly positive with whatever limited feedbacks we had, and we decided to jump in. So we decided to jump, and obviously, when you decide to jump, that's how you get to know how deeper and deeper the dig is you get into, right? It looks so shallow from outside, but when you jump into it, you don't know what's the depth of it. And a lot of investors we're saying in that time, hey, if you're an idea, we're ready to invest. If you're a prototype, we're ready to invest. Blah blah blah. But that was never true when we got into the phase. So we ran into investors. Obviously, investors gave us good feedback. So we knew, and we didn't actually really go from an investment standpoint, though that was one of an indirect goal. But we also wanted to figure out that whether this is fundable later. It's always important to know if you are looking for external investments at any good part of the journey. It's obviously important to know from investors' perspective how do they think about that particular segment in the market size. So we did that even before creating a prototype. Actually, with some of the network I had for a long time, and we got pretty good feedback on that side, mostly from a future sustainability standpoint. And with that, we decided to create prototypes. In fact, I was creating prototype by handling a business somewhere else, sitting in my cabin. And thankfully, I was coding that point of time as well because I have maintained my programming skills for a very long time. Even I was doing a lot of managerial business leadership roles. Got few team members of mine to work with me and obviously pushing them hard to join me later. So the team building activity also started. Started creating prototypes. Obviously started reaching out investors, angel investors, and then we hit eventually an angel investor decided to put in money for us. They put in money. We started building a product. Obviously, it was a very product centric, I would say, company. And hence we took a long time, almost 12 to 16 months to build a product. It was also a large scale product and platform. It was also just not a point solution or just a problem solving one specific product or an app. It was a platform we were trying to build out. And building a platform always takes time. Again, it has pros and cons. Somebody would disagree, somebody would agree. But we took a platform approach more from a features perspective. So we started building out. But while building that, again, the way we started looking out from investors' feedback standpoint, we also started looking out our customers, potential customers' feedback standpoint. So you wouldn't believe, I mean, in the second month of our inception, formal inception, I was on the road talking to a lot of potential customers. I was traveling to Korea, US, India, and our customers, first customer set was our OEMs and telecom operators. The second set of customers, so it was a B2B, B2C home. And the second set of customers were obviously consumers who were eventually users. So because the first set of customers were the first ones we need to crack. So we started getting a lot of them, started getting a lot of feedback from those customers. And you wouldn't believe in 6 months what we were trying to build and what we actually came out with. It had like 70-80% of difference. So we were building around an advertisement model platform. We eventually ended up building up a content delivery platform. But it did help. What it means is when we were out with a product, we had 5 contracts signed up, just like that. Because we built that relationship, we got all the feedbacks in place, we did all the changes in the product, whatever we wanted, and we came out, everybody wanted it. Obviously, the sales cycles were higher later on, but we didn't get kicked out of the office so badly and we had to shut down. So we were happy doing that. We then went on the road, raising our Series A money. But at the same amount of time, we got an acquisition offers, we ended up selling the company. So that's roughly my entrepreneurial journey with Hoopz per se. We got a lot of IPs. I'm a very IP-centric guy at the end of the day. We had 10, 15 IPs granted in India, in US, and so on. A lot of IPs were created, a lot of awards were won. One point of time, whenever I used to travel in Hong Kong, New York, in a lot of these events and Google events, they were called as mini Google and so on. So a lot of, I would say we did a lot of indirect marketing also when we were part of all these events because we got to know who wants and who does not want, right? So it's very essential in the early days if you figure out who wants and who does not want. It saves a lot of your bandwidth, it saves a lot of your cost when you're actually in the market selling it. So we did a lot of those activities in the first 12 months at the cost of spending money. You have to be very careful about it. It does has a cost associated to it. It's not free. But thankfully we had money in the bank account and we were confident about using it in that way. So those kind of feedback because we thought it adds a lot of tangible value later. And then coming to product, if we are staying within the context of today's agenda, so we had a world-class product there. Obviously, it had its own issues. Even sometimes in our first launch, customers were shouting what the heck this is. So we learned a lot on that side. And that's how I think eventually in fact, let me give you a story before I jump into the other point I was saying. So user experience, right? Well, I do come from a product background, but somehow when you are starting up, you tend to jump and miss some of the initial points which are still important because you think you can do it, right? So user experience is something which we did hire as a dedicated person in our organization. And if I was talking to an investor, when the investor saw my product, it's a very tier 1 investor, it's a tier 1 venture capitalist. Right? The venture capitalist is saying, look, you have a multi-billion-dollar idea. And so first of all, a top-class venture capital saying, senior partner over there that you are working on a multi-billion-dollar opportunity is very rare. Okay? So he says that, but he says, your product experience is too bad. So we took that very seriously, and we worked on the product experience. So I think for creating products, product experiences is very important. I've been telling Aegis as well, advising his other company for it. We started spending more time later on the product experience part, the visual part, the usage part, the user journey part, and so on. So we didn't take her initially. So that's very important. That was one of our problem area. We started solving it later. And then while building a product, we were very specific on whether the product is scalable, whether the product can be evolved as a platform eventually, how many features to go, how many features should not go, and so on, right? And obviously customer feedback is the most important point. So while building those products, we made sure a lot of those points. I wish if I'm starting again, I'll correct that problem segment of taking care of experience much more earlier than later. And experiences were changing a lot. We didn't know how consumers are really accepting what kind of experiences. So we took that as we took that as a passage for ourselves, not really focusing more on that, which is not good. You should not assume certain things. Even if you don't have the data in place, maybe you try hard to get the data in place to make sure that your experience is right. So that's how we built products, and obviously the product was liked by our first set of customers. Product was not liked by a second set of customers initially. We rolled back, we started changing a lot of things, and then eventually it was also getting liked by a second set of customers eventually. And then we sold it out, and obviously after selling out, a lot of things changed, which I can talk in a different session altogether.
Great. I think this whole experience brings up a lot of key points that I think any entrepreneur goes through at different points of time. Just like you were mentioning, user experience. Maybe we'll take it up in more detail,
sure.
But I think that is so important. But that's so difficult to achieve. Like I'm still trying to figure out for my own products.
It's an iterative process. An iterative process.
Building it the right way. A few other things that I could pick from from your story was one, you mentioning that you were pretty active coding the things. So Akash, how do you see today's founders here? If you are building a tech product, do you advocate that founders need to be coding, or do you think that there is a way possible that you can still get away with it?
So I think there is no straight answer to it, but it has its implications, right? So now, if we are starting a tech-enabled company, it's good to have an engineering background, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes what happens is some entrepreneurs who are not from non-tech background, but they want to do tech-enabled companies, or essentially even if they want to do something, the tech becomes a critical part of it. Right? So even if you want to do a commerce, the tech does become an important part of it. So if you are not from a tech or engineering background, then what happens? You start looking out for a co-founder from a CTO standpoint, or known programming and coding and so on. Now that journey of finding a co-founder can become a very tough journey, and that can delay your plans a lot, because unless you can build something, you cannot show something, it may not get a value what you want in different aspects, right? So I think it's good to have an engineering background if you want to do a tech-enabled company. If you don't have it, then you need to make sure that before even you're thinking of doing something, you have a good ecosystem around you in terms of friends or partners who could be potential co-founders with you right from day one of the journey. And I have seen many a times that a non-tech entrepreneur, when you get a tech co-founder along with you, a lot of times startups fail because the frequencies don't match. In fact, as per data, that more than 36% of startups they fail because of co-founder issues. So I think the founders from a non-tech background need to have a very open mind and need to treat other co-founders as a family. Otherwise, there are a lot of issues which happens later on. So I think the short answer is good to have, not necessary. If you don't have it, make sure you have an ecosystem around it to make sure that you're successful in the future.
So, Akash, what are the key skills you think that core team should have? Like, it could be a single person or it could be, let's say, 3 people. But what are those skills that are required right from day one that you should have in your team?
Yeah, no, I think the business skills, the product management skills combined with some user experience skills and the engineering skills. I think these are 3 important skills you need to have in the initial days in your company. So that it's aligned for your scalability in the future, it's aligned to whatever investors or customers you're going to look out at, and having that experience makes sure that you have a kind of a good class product coming out or a good class solution coming out of the company. If you don't have these skills, whatever comes out is always not 100%. Then it's kind of 40% sometimes, 60% sometimes, and then customers may not want it, investors are not happy, and so on. So if you have right mix of business, product management experience, and then engineering, largely again from a tech-enabled company standpoint, I would say you're fairly covered to start with.
And one of the key areas that you mentioned was, being able to research about while you were building a product, you already had customers sign up and you were able to do some research about what customers want, what customers do not want. That's something I found, a dilemma that, many people face. Sure. So would you maybe like to give a bit of depth on that? Like how to research and...
See, I think if you have hit a right problem, then the problem is typically shared with many of your potential customers. I'm saying the problem is shared with many organizations or people on the planet. And when that problem is identified in such a way that there was a need for such kind of a solution, a lot of those people can become your initial customers and they're happy to work with you along in your product cycle. I've seen many products coming out wherein the products were built along with the help of the customers. And I think sometimes people feel that I don't have anything whether the customer would actually work with me or not. Right? So I've seen customers actually working to make your product better and better, even right from pre-alpha stage to beta stage. And they throw out a lot of problems at you, they throw out a lot of issues at you, and that actually helps it to make better and better. You need to make sure that you're reaching out to those customers, and I think you don't have to shy away. Because one thing I tell you that as long as you're not going in prison, don't be shy of anything. Right? So reach out to those customers. There are a lot of customers who are happy to work with you. They are happy to give you whatever feedback you want. They're happy to use it even in whatever stage it is, as long as you're hitting the right problem. If you're not hitting a right problem and then you're trying to push it to somebody, it's not going to help.
And that brings me into a follow-up question, as in when the research shows that there are some aspects that customer don't like, but you of course love your idea. That's a human tendency.
Yeah.
So when is the time to, let's say, take a call on stopping about something or not doing something further? Let's say the whole startup, or maybe that certain feature that you thought could change the world, but your customer says, I don't think I need it.
So I think there's this term which is called as cohort analysis. Okay? It's been used in different ways by different people, but it's a very favorite term used by venture capitalists. Cohort analysis can have different meanings at different standpoints. What it essentially means is gathering data, collective data across different parameters and points, which helps you to come out to take a appropriate decision. Okay? That's what cohort analysis typically does. The cohort analysis you can do on your monthly usage, on your daily usage, how much time spent, how much time engaged, what's the churn, when are the users coming back, and so on. So you can build a lot of graphs around it, and then you can make a decision whether this is scalable, not scalable, what's happening, not happening, why it is not happening, and so on, right? So coming back to your point at what time you should leave out is when you have that data which is distributed around few customers of yours, and just not one. If it's distributed around at least let's say 7 or 10 customers, and you're getting similar outcomes that somebody is wanting this, somebody is not wanting this, then you start letting your things go and then start accepting what customers want, right? So in my case also, right? So when I started reaching out initial customers, we were talking about advertisement model, and then large part of started saying, why the heck advertisements on mobile, right? So for example, so we started thinking very hard on that, and we started building up a lot more things. But we had that code analysis at that point of time from a lot of our potential customers, and that's how we started changing what features should go and what should not go, which should take front stage, what should go on backstage, or something should just go away, right, altogether. So if you have that analysis in place from your potential customers, that's the time you should start thinking about what features to prioritize and what not to prioritize in the initial days. If you don't have any customers at that particular time, in terms of, let's say, an enterprise customer, let's say consumers, if you're B2C, if you literally have zero, then some of your experiences, when I said you have a product experience, mix of product experience, engineering and business, so that will help you at least to make sure what goes in, what should go in and what should not go in. Because then you have experience backing what you're doing. But I think that's typically a stage. Best case scenario is where your customers, you have analysis from your customers, and that's how you decide. Worst case scenario, if you don't have customers, then all your experience is already working past with that connection.
Okay, fair enough. And another question that I'd like to know is, and that's again kind of a FAQ, like when you build your startup team, so just like you were mentioning, in your experience, you were able to attract friends and get some help, and then eventually they became your partners or employees and so on.
Yeah.
So some methods on that, like how to
how to get them, right?
How to make people believe in your idea, what to do during those stages to retain those excellent people, and so on.
So I think having talent in place, including co-founders, is a very tough nut to crack actually. What I say always is if you remember Ayush at one of the events you called me at your annual meet, I talked about empathy, right? Product standpoint, but I think this empathy is important. Product, employees, and customers across all the three. And I think I've learned a lot from people like Narayan Murthy in a way. I think empathy and humbleness is very important in the initial days and even later standpoint. It should not change because that should come inherently from you. So first is empathy, reaching out to people and then trying to make them believe what you're trying to do at whatever stage they are at. And in fact, I got people who were actually my team members, right? So I had a large team of 500 people team, 100 people team, and they were one of the team members, and the approach with them was still very empathetic. So I think to make sure that somebody should believe you should have an empathy towards that person. If you don't have it, it really does not work out, okay? Then the second thing is obviously you need to show a much bigger picture. And you need to show certain references how that industry is evolving. And obviously, generally speaking, the front person should be excited about what you're doing. And so if you're not able to create that excitement by throwing a lot of data across you on that particular scope what you're working on, it may be slightly harder for you to get people to work with you. So, and I always say for entrepreneurs, look out at bigger market sizes. If you have bigger market sizes you're addressing, then automatically you can create a lot of data which will help excite a lot of your talent pool, including co-founders to come and believe you. But I think the most important part is empathy. As long as you can be empathetic towards people, I think, in my personal opinion, again, people may disagree, 50% of your job is done. To attract people to work with you. And the rest 50% is obviously they believe in you, or maybe you have experience in doing that. There is a large market to address. A lot of people are doing that. A lot of funding is coming. Let's say if you're funding savvy and so on, there is a lot of opportunity. There's an exit opportunity also, wherein your early employees can make something out of it and so on. So that's the rest of the 50%. If you can combine that together, as I said, it's not so easy. It's kind of still harder than what I'm saying. But if you can take care of those 2 points, those 2 buckets appropriately over a period of time, I think those are few of the methods you can try. Some people do all this.
And within the startup ecosystem, how do you see the role of advisors and mentors for your startup, and how to make better use of those resources? So, one is like how to find them and why they're important, and once you've found them, how to make the best use of such mentors so that we are able to justify the relationship from both sides.
No, I think thankfully in today's world, the whole advisory and mentorship is not limited now. You will have tons and tons of advisors and mentors of different backgrounds. Somebody could have been from entrepreneurship background, somebody could not have been from entrepreneurship background. But you will see tons and tons of them who are available, which is not the case 7-8 years back, even during our time. So, availability of advisors and mentors are there. How to reach out to them to begin with? Events like this. You have to be active in a lot of events. You can be active in a lot of accelerators and incubators. You can go and listen to a lot of people what they're saying, and network and find out mentors. And even there are a lot of online communities now wherein you can find a lot of mentors and advisors. So I think finding mentors and advisors is no more a challenging task, no more a bottleneck, no more a roadblock. As long as you're doing all this stuff, participating in incubators, accelerators, going to events like this, be slightly more open, going for networking and so on. How to best use them? You need to be slightly less emotional and more practical in nature while dealing with mentors and advisors, because there is a potential way wherein you could maybe spoil your relationships in the longer term, right? Because you are more emotional in nature, you're not data oriented, no practical orientation, and then the expectations mismatches may happen later on. Right? So it should be very specific. If you're looking for an engineering mentor, you should find an engineering mentor only. Right? Don't go to somebody who don't have an engineering background, for example. If you're looking for a marketing help, go to somebody who knows marketing, has done mentoring, right? Or has done actually marketing, for example. Sales, go to somebody who has actually done sales, right? Who has actually done that. So you bucketize your requirements from mentorships and advisory standpoint and reach out to them. Because you may not be as lucky as Ayush is working with me, but you're getting all of them, all three, because we've been doing that both from engineering, product, marketing, sales in a lot of the previous organizations, but not necessarily everyone has done that. So if you can't find a person like that, then make sure that you are finding a person appropriate to that role. Second thing is, most of the time what I've seen is startups get mentors on board. The mentor is excited, entrepreneur is excited, founder is excited, and then slowly the engagement starts getting diluting. It's very essential that the engagement is very periodic and the expectations are set. What are the outcomes you're looking out from many mentors and advisors? So I think that's how you go about typically mentorships and advisory thing. And I said, don't shy taking mentorships and advisors, even people who have not been entrepreneurs, right? Because they also bring a lot of professional experiences. For youngsters like you, professional experience is also very important. They have those kind of professional experiences. And now you have people from professional experiences also who are good advisors and mentors. So don't shy away of taking advisory of those kind of people like that. The only thing is, again, be empathetic. Don't forget this empathy rule any point of time at any juncture of your communications or of your engagement models, right? Be empathetic, set right expectations, reach out to the right people who have done that in past, and fourth, make sure you are periodically engaging with them in an appropriate way so that you get the best outcomes out of it, right? And then obviously, most of the times advisors and mentors do demand what's in it for them also, right? Now in my case, for example, when I worked with Ayush, company. So obviously we are working on a commercial engagement as well at the same point of time. There are few startups whom I'm generally helping with no commercial engagements. So you need to make sure that whether that appropriate mentor and advisor is looking what's in it for him. And there's nothing wrong with it. Right? At the end of the day, somebody is spending some time, efforts, whatever with you. So it's always good to have that expectations also set to make sure, again, the outcomes are best. Well, I've seen that falling through a lot of times because advisors or mentors think, there's nothing coming out of me. I don't know if this entrepreneur will run out any point of time. It may happen, right? A company may shut down. Somebody just spending time. So there are a few set of mentors and advisors who are very specific. What's in it for me? There's nothing wrong with it. You should set that expectation very right.
Rightly said. So I'll move a bit more towards the future. So Akash sitting in a session which is towards the end of 2018. What are the major trends that you are seeing? As we enter 2019, and if someone is probably starting with a blank slate or someone is at a point where they can pivot, what could be the areas that probably, are more attractive than some areas which could be going down? What do you see, what do you observe about?
Sure. So Ayush is pushing me very hard on this right from the morning. Okay? So I'll try my best again, right? So one of the things I was saying to Ayush in the morning was consumerization of IT. So what does that mean, right? You have this lot of IT systems in place. Most of the time they were on-premise. Now sometimes they are even cloud because they have to be in cloud. But they were not built from a consumer mindset. Right? So what happens when you build from a consumer mindset? You build a lot of applications now, right? It is scalable in nature. It is made for mass set of users. It is based with those experiences, what users want and not what you want. So a lot of IT systems were built, very different ways. It's still old legacies. So then the cloud wave came in from so many years now, and then a lot of those products started going to cloud. And so the transition which happened was that the products were on-premise, they started going to cloud, but the experiences are still so bad in nature. So what is happening now is with this cloud enabled, which has now been done and will keep on ongoing for the next so many years. Now people are looking for best experiences within those products. Even a simple ticket management kind of an application has to be appealing. And when I say appealing, it involves a lot of things. It's not visually appealing, right? It has to be appealing overall. And just give an example, right? So there is a lot of opportunities now to think from that standpoint. To create a lot of enterprise products, which are cloud enabled, which are SaaS enabled, software as a service, and which are solving some problems for enterprises which has not been solved in the past, and even transforming a lot of products which has been legacy in nature. And there are opportunities, people looking out for newer ways of doing the same thing, right? With this whole transition. So that's one opportunity. Obviously in US it's a much bigger opportunity. And there's one thing to it is there's a lot of SMB market which is growing. I think the latest data says there's close to around 30-40 million SMBs which are going to be coming up in the SMB market in the next few years in developed markets. Not necessarily in India, but in developed markets, and then combining with developing markets. It's a huge market, right? And when they come up in that segment and they look out for something which is quickly usable, which does not have a lot of cost involved, it does not have a lot of IT support requirements, and they can just swipe their credit card and start using it. So that's one area, consumerization of IT from an enterprise standpoint. Second, healthcare is one thing which I was talking about. I think in healthcare there's a lot of things which are going to come up. Obviously, artificial intelligence, deep learning is helping a lot. Genomic DNA sequencing is something which is growing. Now you can, in US even, you can get your DNA sequencing done just for $500, right? It's so cheap, but the value of those $500 is so tremendously so huge. I think a lot of those stuff will go for scale in next few years now, including 2019. And then there's a lot of ecosystem building around how do you connect overall healthcare ecosystem together, right? Including from consumer brands to communications between patients and doctors, including using all the data for predictions of patients and diseases and so on. Right? So I think there's a lot of things which is already happening, but I think the scale may start happening from next year. Okay, that's my personal opinion, and a lot of buzz is around that scenario as well. Third, you know Bitcoin, right? So this is like similar to Bitcoins. All of those currencies were utility tokens. The utility tokens have not gone the way they would have gone in 2018. I was bullish myself in 2017, 2018, but now it's slightly bearish for some more years. But the other thing which has come out is security tokens. The same blockchain-enabled concept, but it's done for something else. So that's another area you can watch out and you can read more. You have a lot of time to go details in that. So that's something which is going and taking off a lot in markets like US. Logistics is another area we are talking wherein a lot of movement of goods. A lot of people want predictions, inventory management and inventory predictions. How to get quick mile delivery, how to get last mile delivery. How to make sure things are not getting broken, how to make sure there's an asset management happening, how to make sure there's asset location tracking is happening, a lot of things actually. So that's one other area. It has been, for past 2 years, it has been in the radar and it has been growing a lot, but I think in 2019 it will go still much at a faster speed. Retail transformation is another one. I think a lot of this, so obviously Amazon being disrupting, a lot of retail customers are looking to automate a lot of those things and bringing a lot of good consumer experiences in the retail stores. That's another area I'm watching out. I think those are roughly which I think, and there are a few more, but maybe they're not coming to my mind right now. But these are what I'm also personally thinking that may evolve different way, and obviously currently, my own personal bet is more on the consumerization of IT enterprises.
Cool, Akash. So one more question that I would like to go into before we move towards the presentation side, and we'll probably take more details on the product design and user experience on that section.
Sure.
So something I would like to know more is more on your personal excellence, as in the habits that you do, the books or day-to-day things that you do, which you could probably share some secret recipes for us to probably grow into better excellence around ourselves as well.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a context. Akash is very punctual all the time. Like that's something, a habit that I was telling him openly that I want to learn from him, because in our meetings he's always punctual, I'm always late. So Akash, a bit on the things on your personal excellence side, what are the things that you do?
Yeah, no, I think this empathy chord has hit very hard to me. Okay, and I'm generally very empathetic towards people nowadays. And obviously that comes out with last 20 years of experience now. I was a very talkative guy 10 years back from now. I have completely transformed myself to more of a listener. Unless when I'm talking like this, right? But in general forum, I'm more of a listening guy now rather than more of a talkative guy. That's one of my personal habits which I have changed over a period of time. Second, obviously empathy, as I told, I've become much more empathetic towards people the way I was earlier. I do respect a lot of people, irrespective of what they're doing in their career, in their entrepreneurship, whatever they're doing, right? Third is I'm very friendly to young people. And thankfully at the age of 40, I still look young. And that helps me to interact better with younger people. But I am said, even if I would have been looking much more older than what I am looking today, I would have been still much more friendly with younger people. And I think the important part is because they typically are there to disrupt you. And they have a very different thought process than what I used to have 20 years back from now. And it helps me, even at this particular juncture of my life, to stay young and to stay evolving and try to think the way they are thinking at the same time. And that helps me to always learn every single day. Right? So I don't stop learning any point of time from anybody. People like Ayush, what he's doing, his teams, people who are studying in colleges, teaches anybody. I think the learning capability has increased much more than maybe what it was earlier. Fourth, yes, I do read a lot. I read books less. I really curate my books, and I don't just keep on generally reading books. I really curate very hard on what books I want to read, why do I want to read, and how it's going to help me in the next 4 to 5 years. Right? Otherwise, I don't touch any books, irrespective of how good they are books. In fact, if somebody is a good avid reader of books and he sits in front of me and asks, "Do you know this book?" There's a high probability I'll say no, I don't know it. Right? And I don't shy away from that as well. But I do read few important books. If you want to read some books, let's say even in the context of product management, you should read a book called as Hooked, Hooked. I forgot the name of the author. It has a yellow cover, just in case it helps you to discover.
I think Ali.
Yeah, it's a famous book. It helps you to understand building products. You should read books like Lean Startup by Aegis. It helps you to understand what you should do and what you should not do. If you want to learn about scaling much more earlier, you can read the book from Reid Hoffman, which is called as Blitz Scaling. It's a fantastic book to just come up. If you want to reach how enterprises transition from old way to new way, you can read books like Hit Refresh by Satya, written from Microsoft transition standpoint, and so on. So these are a few of the books I've read, a few of the books I'm reading, like this book from Reid Hoffman. I'm reading a book by Saul Stringer called Startup Nation. Talks about Israeli startups and how military has helped the Israeli startup ecosystem. Another interesting book I'm reading is by John Deere called as OKRs. It's how you set your key result areas and KPIs and objectives and so on, which a lot of companies are following and have followed in the past. So I do read less books. There are not many books. 3-4 important books. And obviously I keep a lot of things over internet, generally speaking, both in technology, businesses, and so on, which helps me to stay relevant today. If you're not reading, if you're not reading, it may not be a lot, but if you're not reading a few things across here and there, you may not stay relevant. And if you're not interacting with young people, you may not stay relevant.
So, what are your personal views on more on that everyday kind of channels that you follow? Is there anyone but think TechCrunch or something?
TechCrunch is one of them. On podcast, I do listen to Reid Hoffman's podcast, which is about scaling companies. I do listen to podcasts from Anderson and Horowitz. They talk about a lot of newer things as well. So those are generally some of the podcasts I listen to in the morning when I'm driving. Some of the books I told I'm reading. I generally keep on interacting with a lot of people. And because I advise now a lot of companies, it helps me to understand a lot of different aspects. At the same point of time, I'm not a Gyani advisor, but I'm more of an executive advisor. So if I advise something, I make sure I also execute on that. I'm sure Ayush can correlate to it. So I kind of burn my hands to make sure that what I'm talking is also going to be true in the future at different aspects. And when I do that, I don't really care how dirty it is. Even if somebody, while advising, asks me to do this delivery, do this content writing, I will do it. Okay, so I share all my baggage and I get my hands dirty in those kind of stuff as well. So I think that helps me on a daily basis to kind of keep learning and keep being active and kind of knowing what are the problems which are actually there on the ground. And yes, I think spending time with family is a very important thing. When you're trying to do so many things, and then if you're trying to if you're an entrepreneur, you tend to, you don't want to, but you indirectly tend to go away from your family in a way, right? You tend to not giving so much of attention to them the way it should have been given. I think it's very important that you spend time with family. And I think if you spend time with family, it already builds up your empathy skills. They are the first one to build up your empathy skills. If you do that, it keeps you happy. Your time may go, which you may not get again. So, for example, in my case, I had my kid 1 year and I couldn't spend time, and then I was crying after 3 years because I could not spend time. But then I made sure that I spend a lot of time with them. I think spending time with family on a daily basis is very important. Don't disregard the importance of family which comes to your life every single day. Yeah, and this is roughly a very simple daily routine. Read good podcasts, read some of the good books. I'm not a very aggressive reader. I go slowly so that I can remember and I can use them in different situations. Don't try to bombard everything what you read from a book in your daily activities. That's not the right thing. You should use those for some of the important scenarios. Your execution should not depend upon what you read day-to-day basis. That's my personal opinion. But you should read. It's very important to stay with it. Spend time with family and spend time with people like Akash.
Thank you. So, thank you, Akash, for joining us today. Let's have a round of applause, guys.